economic growth and jobs.
Prime Minister, did you or anyone acting on your behalf?
Sorry?
He says that these leaks about the NBN have been under investigation since December last year. Did you or anyone in your office or anyone in your government have knowledge this matter was under investigation?
Well, the first I heard of the AFP investigation was yesterday, when I was advised by the Justice Minister shortly after he'd been advised by the Commissioner. But let me just make this observation. We are dealing here with a matter of law enforcement. We're dealing here with a matter of the Australian Federal Police. As you've heard from Commissioner Colvin, the AFP acts independently of government, and so it should. The NBN Co made a referral of a matter of concern of illegal leaking of confidential commercial information. They made that referral to the AFP. The AFP made an independent decision to investigate it, and they made an independent decision, as the Commissioner noted, to undertake the various operational activities that they did yesterday. Now, what Labor is doing is seeking to attack the integrity of the Australian Federal Police. That is a shameful thing to do. Labor should be ashamed of themselves. You know, you can't trust Labor on national security. We know where they stand or don't stand on border security. Now we see them attacking the integrity of the Australian Federal Police. The only thing we should do with respect to this investigation is to let the Federal Police do their work. And I'm not going to make any further comments on it. As Prime Minister, my job is to ensure that the AFP does their work free of political pressure or involvement. A matter's been referred to them. They've made the decision to investigate it. They've made the decision to execute warrants and conduct searches, and they should do that in accordance with their own judgment and come to their own conclusions.
Prime Minister, could I ask Prime Minister?
Country, given that he's asserted these raids have Is Mark Dreyfus fit to be Attorney General of this country, given that he's asserted that these raids have undermined confidence in the AFP?
Well, Mr Dreyfus is given to inflammatory statements, and they are not normally what you would regard as consistent with somebody who's seeking to be the first law officer of the Crown. You're right, seeking to be the Attorney General. The fact of the matter is the AFP acts independently of government. Mr Dreyfus knows that. And what he has sought to do is to try to... everything he has said to suggest the AFP has been acting other than independently, he knows is wrong. He knows they act independently of government. They always have done, they always will do. And you've had the Commissioner, Andrew Colvin, making an account for the AFP himself this morning.
Please, just in light of this, not directly on the investigation, but in light of this, in your time in federal politics, have you or any of your staff members ever leaked a confidential government document?
See, Tim, I'm not going to get into a sort of an interesting fishing expedition of yours. With great respect. No, let me just be very clear about this. What we have is an AFP investigation which is being conducted independently of government, and it should be allowed, and it will be allowed, to be completed independently of government. And the Labor Party should be ashamed of themselves for attacking the integrity of the Australian Federal Police. The police must be allowed to do their job. The police are in the front line of our national security, domestic security. It is critical that the police act independently, as do our national security agencies. They do. They should be respected, and I'm not going to engage in any political discussion about this. The police are doing their job. They're doing it independently. They're doing it with integrity. I respect them. I believe all Australians respect them, and so should the Labor Party.
Given the level of your office, and given the fact that Andrew Colvin said there are a number of investigations going on at the moment, shouldn't Australians know that the top office in the land won't be involved in one of these investigations down the track, that they're voting for you at this election?
Well, there is no... Can I say to you, since I've been... I can only speak for my own time as Prime Minister, there has been no suggestion that I've ever heard of any leaks from my office. Right? So that's the fact. It is a very... We run a very tight ship. Okay. Now, having said that, I know that all of you journalists are determined to find gaps in even the tightest ships, but that's my commitment. Now, can I just say, I just want to make one other observation about, because it's also relevant to Tasmania, if I may say so, which is where we are, in case some of the visiting media have forgotten. This is a state where, at the time the Labor government lost the election in 2013, the construction of the NBN had completely stalled and failed. In other parts of Australia, it hadn't even got started in any meaningful way. We inherited a project that was completely and utterly failed. Now, normally, melancholy history of experience in the world, people who've been involved in big projects will understand what I mean. Normally, bad projects get worse. It is very hard to turn them around. We have turned around the NBN by putting in new management, new board, new approach. What we have done is we are now very close to completing 1/4 of the whole rollout. There's well over 2 million premises in Australia that can get the NBN. There's nearly 1 million that are actually using it. We are adding, as you can see them, they're posted on the NBN website every week. Complete transparency. It is powering ahead. More than half of Tasmania is now covered, and Tasmania will be the first state to be completed. So we are getting on with the job. Now, if we had continued with the Labor Party's approach, this is what the consequence would be. Australians would have waited at least 6 and as much as 8 years longer to get the service built, and it would have cost them $30 billion more. So we're delivering the NBN sooner, much sooner, and at much less cost. And so and as you know, as I said, there are nearly 1 million customers out there, and it is becoming one of the reasons it's not in the headlines in the way it used to be, is because it's being built. And it is a good, reliable utility, and right across Australia, particularly in regional Australia, where the satellite is now becoming available, and of course the wireless broadband has become so successful, fixed wireless has become so successful, especially in Eric's electorate here in Tasmania. What we're seeing is real development, real progress. So we at the NBN, I can tell you, the turnaround of the NBN was remarkable, because usually bad projects get worse, and it is being built and completed much faster and at much less cost than it would have been under Labor.